All right, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles once again having a very Philadelphia Eagles draft, I would say, especially with their first couple of picks. So let's get into it. And really, the first pick is just such an Eagles pick, right? Jahad Campbell, a really good prospect. Okay, first, actually, let me back up. I have to explain the chart you see next to me. So the first number you're going to see is when the player was taken, then the player's name, the player's position, and finally, where they were supposed to go, quote unquote, supposed to go according to the consensus big board. You see, Campbell was projected to go 21st. He goes 10 picks later. Really good player who honestly was only 21st because of positional value, would have been higher otherwise. I thought he had great film, and I wanted my favorite team to take him at 19, although I'm happy with what we did, but ultimately I think Campbell's going to be a great player eventually for the Eagles. Listen, he's not going to start right away. Or I guess, maybe he is actually, because the Nakobe Dean injury, I said on the initial video, like, oh, okay, he'll play behind Nakobe Dean. But Nakobe Dean's hurt. So now that I'm saying that, no, like, he probably will play right away, which is maybe disappointing news for Nakobe Dean of he's in the last year of his deal. But ultimately, hey, you got to make sure you have a good player. Campbell should be a very good player for the Philadelphia Eagles. So really like that. Then they got Andrew Makuba, the Texas safety, another guy I really like. These were two players I was big fans of both. He should be a really good coverage safety, and with C.J. Gardner-Johnson now gone, they needed another safety, so getting Makuba. I always like safeties in round 2 as well. I've often sort of said never let a day 2 of the draft go by without getting a safety or a receiver, because those are the two positions that you tend to still get pretty good players at in those spots. So getting someone like, Makuba definitely is, it makes sense. We then have Ty Robinson, an interior defensive lineman. This might be I kind of said, like, everyone kept projecting first round defensive line. I was kind of saying, like, they're okay there. People think because of the players they lost, they're in trouble, but they were so deep that even with losing Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, listen, that's going to be tough to recover. There's no denying that. But they didn't have to make sure they went out and got a player unless that player was available. Well, a pretty good player is available. Ty Robinson, pretty good athlete, should be I don't want to call him a Milton Williams replacement because that's a lot to ask of a guy, but someone who could at least do that role. I'm not sure if you're going to give him as many snaps as Williams got, but maybe some of those snaps. Should be a good pass rusher on the inside. That's kind of what you look at, and is a great athlete, so maybe you can develop him a little more. They then made a couple of, I'll say, a bit questionable picks here. At least picks that could go right or could go wrong, maybe. So first, Mac McWilliams, which I was trying to find it, and I couldn't tell, like, is his name actually Mac McWilliams? I feel like Mac is usually a nickname if you have a Mick in your name, so maybe that's why he's called Mac. I couldn't figure that out. But Mac McWilliams, which is a fun name, is a corner out of UCF who, I think should be someone who has the athleticism to work as a slot corner. I think that's where you're looking at. Should be a pretty solid slot corner. A lot of teams maybe don't need a slot corner or don't want to spend, that pick on a slot corner, but ultimately getting a player who can play at 145, even if he's not going to play right away, that should be pretty good value. So I don't really get why he's projected 205 unless people just see it differently than me. I don't know. You didn't have Smail Molden Jr., difficult first name to pronounce, off-ball linebacker out of Georgia. So they go for another off-ball linebacker as a depth piece here. And we know that they love their Georgia players. They love their SEC players. And he's someone who, again, is very much a guy who can run in a straight line very well. He is a laser beam out there. The issue is that he very much will choose a gap and run through it, regardless of whether that's the right gap or not. I think you need some development with him. It's only 22, but is a player who can, does have the physical traits to succeed. You just kind of need to get him to work. So that's why I think they're probably just going to have him sit for a bit. Hopefully they can coach him up, and then they should be good to go. They then drafted Drew Kendall with pick 168, a player who, a center who, again, people don't always want to draft centers, so you sometimes can get a better player than maybe you would get other positions just because only so many teams are willing to draft even a backup center, because if you have a backup center, you're okay. Ultimately, I think, like, you look at him and he's not someone who, like, has the it should be anything more than a backup player. He is a depth piece, it looks like. He's not one of those, sometimes there's intriguing prospects like, oh, great talent, can they put it all together? Or like great, great production, but doesn't have the talent. He's kind of in between. Solid production, solid talent, should be a solid backup, you would think. Kyle McCord at pick 181 was someone who, I sort of, felt like he is someone who will definitely take chances. I just don't know if he has the physical. I don't know if he has the physical traits. So he's a quarterback. I don't know if he has the physical traits to play with the style that he plays, right? Brock Purdy doesn't have physical traits, and so he plays a very specific style. McCord, hey, listen, that style works enough in college, but at the NFL level, I'm not sure how well it's going to work. I'm also just surprised they went with another quarterback here. I feel like they have, I thought Tanner McKee, they felt solid about as a backup, and they traded for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I assume they liked him enough. So not exactly sure what's going on there or why they decided to make that pick. Maybe they just like Kyle McCord, and we've seen them do this before. They drafted Jalen Hurts after they had made Carson Wentz the highest paid quarterback in football history. So, who knows? But probably just getting a depth piece here. So then they got a couple of offensive linemen, some depth pieces here who maybe they feel like they can develop. So Miles Hinton, projected to go 213th. He's a guy who, okay, the numbers aren't good. I just wonder if he's someone they feel like they can coach up. He's 6'6", 340 pounds. So this is a big guy right here. And I have not done a deep dive on Miles Hinton in his scouting report, but I just wonder if there is, I've done the research I've done. I wonder if there's something that they saw on film that they feel like they can coach up. Because not an analytics darling by any means. Like he's going to 191 for a specific reason, but yeah, we'll see how well that works. And Cameron Williams, kind of another player who, again, not an analytics darling in the slightest, but potentially has some athleticism that could work at the next level. Another 6'5", 235 guy. So you have the physical traits. He was projected to go 99th, which is kind of crazy, but ultimately another guy who's really just a project here. And then finally, they kind of went the opposite way with Antoine Powell-Ryland, who he goes at pick 209. He was projected to go about 50 spots earlier. Someone who, again, he's only 6'3", 250, but that's not horrible, I would say. Doesn't necessarily wow you with his athleticism, but had pretty good production in college. So, especially his pass rush stuff. I don't know if he's ever going to be a 3-down player, but honestly, like the reading up on and the analytics and stuff tell a different story than where he ends up getting drafted, which has to make you assume the tape probably isn't quite as good. But ultimately, hey, getting someone with good analytics, you do this enough, sometimes you hit on these guys. That was Kobe Turner, right? That's just someone with good analytics, and then he ended up being a great player he still is a great player for the Rams. So yeah, an interesting situation, but with some flyers late, some really strong picks early on, and some interesting ones in the middle, I would say this is another very good draft by the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, I do think the Eagles have done it again. There's a reason why they continue to be very good. But yeah, those are my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.